If you are a midlife woman or you're coming up on this powerful season of growth, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to Unraveling Together. I'm Samantha Graber, also known as Dr. Sam, seasoned holistic health physician and woman in the midst of midlife's unraveling. Unraveling Together is a place we talk about the things we just don't talk about, but so desperately need to as women. Together we untangle ourselves from our pasts and weave a beautiful web for a future we so deeply desire to bring to life. Grab a cup of chai, water, tea, or joe, and let's get to it. This is the fifth segment of my 8-part series focused on how your metabolism changes in midlife. In the last episode, I pulled back the purple metabolic curtain to show you why you can eat air and exercise 27 hours a day and still not lose a stinking inch from your waist or anywhere else. Now that may be a wee bit of an exaggeration, but I use it to illustrate a point. This is such a frustrating situation. Now I told you I wouldn't deliver this less than stellar news without bringing along some good news, and I kept my word, as I always do. Whether you are an F or an E camper, your fix remains the same, and it has better results than any pill Big Pharma could ever dream of patenting. Be sure to listen to the 4th episode in this series. The link is in the show notes below. Your one and only true fix is food. What and when you eat is the be-all and end-all when it comes to insulin. Anything that increases insulin will make you store more than you burn. Anything that decreases insulin will make your body burn more than it stores. You can literally transform your body, mind, and life with your fork and knife. Any fork and knife will do. I named this episode Prioritize Protein to Optimize Hormones, amongst other critical things, because step number 4, prioritize protein, is by far one of the most important. You are built out of protein, and it is critical you get enough in your diet and that your body is set up to recycle old proteins and make new ones. Think Goldilocks. You don't want too little, and too much is just not necessary. Not to mention a waste of food money to boot. Protein is critical to life. We must get the lion's share of our requirement from the foods we eat. Now, there are so many varied sources from which we can derive these life-giving amino acids, and that's great news. You can use any kind of protein to meet your needs, though some are better than others when it comes to accompanying carb content. Aim for a variety of sources to ensure you ingest a full profile of amino acids. Protein is critical for muscle formation. In a sense, proteins are bricks in the construction of your body. Proteins are broken down into amino acids, then utilized for tissue repair and maintenance, energy, hormones, enzymes, transportation and storage of molecules, along with the creation of antibodies. You can see why experts recommend you get an adequate amount. When planning your meals, your number one priority is to eat enough protein to maintain and rebuild your lean body mass, along with all the other valuable processes I just mentioned. Each body is a little different. Now, exercise in a fasted state to stack the deck in favor of protein assimilation, which is essentially how your body utilizes those proteins and puts them to work. When choosing animal protein sources, look to the way the animal was raised. What was it fed? In what kind of environment did it live? Was there freedom for movement? Since we are eating the flesh and the fat of that animal or the egg from that animal, what it ate and how it lived affects us directly. Eat the highest quality protein and fats that you can afford. As discussed a couple episodes back in The Number One Reason Midlife Women Seek My Help and Why It Bums Me Out, body fat is hormonally active in all mammals. Just as in humans, an animal's body will store toxins in its body fat. Nature walls off the toxins in fat to protect our vital organs. The design is beyond intelligent like that. I recommend local pasture-raised meats and eggs when available. If not available, aim for items that state organic, pasture-raised, and no antibiotics used. Buy the highest quality meat, fowl, and eggs you can afford and find where you live. You can look at optimizing your choices in time. Now, some locations have an abundance of farm-available meat, fowl, and eggs, while others live in a food desert. Over time, you'll save money eating how I recommend. You can reallocate funds to improve the quality of food in time. Now, there is a criminal amount of deception when it comes to marketing foods, so do a little digging into the company. Some companies have better reputations than others. Hint, free range is not all that free, nor is cage free when it comes to chickens. If you've not seen Food Inc., I highly recommend watching it. Eye-opening to say the least. Here is my hierarchy for protein choices. We'll start with mammals, then we'll move on to the marine life, then fowl, and then eggs. The most ideal source for mammals is wild game on non-polluted lands. Next, regeneratively ranched, pasture-raised, those animals that are able to be true to their animalness. And then below that in level of idealness is free range. So this can still be from a CAFO, which is a concentrated animal feeding operation. It's just not restrained most of the day. And then our least ideal is any animal that comes from a CAFO. Again, that's a concentrated animal feeding operation, which is what most commercially available meat comes from. In our next column, we look to our marine life. So here's where wild fish and shellfish from non-polluted bodies of water would be most ideal. And then next would be those that are farmed in open waters. Next is farmed in confinement. And then please do not eat anything grown and or processed outside the U.S. waters. Next in our protein hierarchy is the fowl. So all the birds. We're looking to regeneratively raised and pastured, which would mean they are bug and seed fed. This way they are able to be true to their birdness. That is our top ideal. Next would be pastured and grain fed. And then below that would be grain-fed and quote-unquote cage-free and or free range. Now keep in mind, they may not be all that free to roam when they have those terms attached to them. And then last but not least would be any fowl that is raised in a CAFO, that concentrated animal feeding operation, which is most commercially available fowl. And our next column is our eggs. Regeneratively raised is ideal. Extra bonus if they're from your backyard or your neighbor's. And next is eggs from a local farmer or the farmer's market. Below that are eggs from chicken coop housed fowl. And then below that are eggs that come from a CAFO, which is where most commercially available eggs come from. Get up to speed on the conversation by listening to the past few episodes of the Unraveling Together podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you receive word when the weekly episode goes live. In the next episode, we'll cover more of my proven 12-step strategy for a body and brain that just won't quit. To get a jump on the process, be sure to grab the top 10 tips to jumpstart your sluggish metabolism freebie. The links will be in the show notes below. Until next time, take good care of yourself and each other. Thank you for joining me on the Unraveling Together podcast. I'd love to turn this thing we've got into a dialogue. Follow me on LinkedIn at Dr. Sam Graber, where we can have conversations about all things midlife, perimenopause, and finding meaning through it all. If you want a deeper dive into exploring your midlife experience, consider joining the Unraveling Together community of rebellious midlife women. It is there that we roll up our sleeves and do the work. Unraveling Together is a resource hub, roadmap, and online coaching community curated by yours truly. We are navigating this time called midlife together, for we truly believe we are stronger together. And when unravelers are in need of an assist, they have all of us there alongside them.